I think I was first exposed to Shakespeare when I was 14 and I was in a school production of Macbeth. I'm sure I'd heard of him before that, but that's my first solid memory of being associated with Shakespeare. And I played a small part in that play, and I still remember auditioning for the teacher that did it, that directed it. And I remember he showed me the book, and it was the old Cambridge edition of Shakespeare, and it had the sort of line drawing of the face of Shakespeare on the cover. And I just remember looking at the words that I was reading in the audition, and just immediately being drawn to it and finding them very mysterious and interesting and strange. And I guess that initial feeling has never gone away. And I've done a lot of Shakespeare's now, and I never tire of it. I never get bored with it. I always find something new in it. A book I read recently described Shakespeare as being bottomless. You know, every word, every phrase, every character and speech, you can just dive into it and never get to the bottom, because you can think about different ways it can be said, what it means in the context of the play, of the times. And of course, I was always and still am very interested in history, so I guess Shakespeare combines these three great loves of mine, which is theatre, history, and literature, and it's all in Shakespeare. So when I do a Shakespeare play, I come alive for the 4 or 5 months when I do a Shakespeare. I feel that's the only time I'm truly alive, is when I do a Shakespeare. It turns me on. You know, it turns me on. Shakespeare turns me on. So I did this first ever production of Shakespeare that I was involved in. It was Macbeth at high school, and I think the next thing that happened after that, I really loved doing that, and I was working with older kids in the school. I was 14 and they were all 16 and 17, and you know, the men were cool and the women were hot, and it was just awesome. You know, I felt like such an adult. And I think the next clear memory I have is of reading a book that was a novel called You, My Brother, and it was all about Shakespeare's brother, who was a real character, but we don't know much about him. And he was actually an actor, and he was an actor in Shakespeare's Company, we think. And I'll always remember a scene in a part of the book where he had just started acting, and he had maybe 3 lines in a play and that he was doing, and he was complaining to someone in the cast about the fact that he had 3 lines, and he was kind of unhappy about that, felt, you know, it wasn't enough and things like that. And the character said, the character he was talking to said, yes, but when you have 1 line, you command the stage. You may only have 1 line, but you command the stage. And that really stayed with me. And it's kind of like the old there are no small parts, only small actors kind of thing. And in a way, I've had the opportunity to play really big roles in Shakespeare, and I've had 3-line parts, and I've had parts in between. And I have to say, the ones I've enjoyed the most have been those kind of in-between ones, like Don Amado in Love's Labour's Lost, and the clown in Winter's Tale. And I just love the opportunity to shine and do an interesting little part that just came in and out of the play. And I was lucky enough later when I went... Actually, no, when I started doing theatre after I left school with local companies, and I came across a man who was a former professional actor who was resting at the time, doing something else, and he was directing a summer performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I had, once again, a small part in that. And then I stayed doing plays with him for about 5 or 6 more years, and we did many Shakespeares. and he was so knowledgeable. He was one of these guys. He could tell me stories about Olivier and Gielgud and people in New Zealand he'd worked with who I knew of, and he'd say things like, "In this company, guys, our inspiration is RADA," because the man who had trained him had trained at RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and so you felt this. You felt special and good, and he just filled me with so much. He just inspired me with all of those things. And I actually got, when I went to drama school a few years later, I got to work with his mentor, with Raymond. And along with Raymond, there was a woman called Linda who taught us voice, who taught us Shakespeare. And wow, it was just amazing. And I've done a lot since then. And I think I learned the most from those guys, people like Lex, who was the first man I was talking about, and Raymond, and later Murray Edmund at the University of Auckland. These people were just so wise, and they were very actor-centered, and that most of them were performers or actors, and they came at everything from that point of view. They were into telling the story. Pace was important. All the things I'm trying to now, I guess, share with my cast, it comes from them. Nothing happens in a vacuum. It comes from other people. So I've never stopped just being into this playwright. It's never stopped. Whenever I think it's stopped, it comes back like a freight train. Because there's something about it, and I can't put my finger on it. People will wax on about, his beautiful writing, or he invented the human, or whatever. But I can't actually put my finger on it. It's something about how I'm attracted to him because of my interests in history and literature and theatre. Maybe it's something about that. But if he was not a very good writer, it wouldn't mean much. But to have all of that plus be perhaps one of the greatest writers ever, I can't stop doing it. I'll probably do it till I die in one way or another. So with this production of Much Ado About Nothing, I'm trying to get back to as much as I and we can to the original Elizabethan style of staging and performance. So in a nutshell, that means a bare stage, hardly any set, continuous action, and an emphasis on song and dance, more so than we've done before in Seoul Shakespeare Company. We can't get truly authentic in the way that, say, the reconstructed Globe in London does, because we don't have the resources to really make the costumes really authentic, and we don't have the use of their stage, which has the really wide sweep and the two pillars, and is basically a reconstruction of the original Globe. But we can do a lot with what we have, and so far we're achieving that. We're about a month into rehearsals, and I'm very, very happy with how it's going. And people are taking to this feel I'm trying to get across. Yeah, oftentimes I think we're told as actors, in Shakespeare or otherwise, the audience are there, you're there, don't look at them, look at each other, play it out, but never engage the audience. And it feels like, you should only engage the audience if it's a comedy show or it's something quite kind of populist and banal, as it were. But, that's what they did in those times, that they did engage the audience. There was a dialogue, I think, between the audience and the performers, both the groundlings and the more the richer people who sat at the top of the theatre to watch the show. So we're trying to get that. We're saying to the actors, please play out to the audience, play out, not gratuitously, just share with the audience and share your skill and your value as an entertainer. So it's something I've wanted to do, I think, at the back of my mind for a long time. And this is the first time I've directed a full-length Shakespeare, so having worked as an actor in many, many Shakespeares. So I'm really loving being able to convey my idea for the staging of this play to the cast and crew. And I think it's just going to be a great experience for people to watch, and it'll be very different from perhaps other Shakespeares they've seen in Seoul or elsewhere. And it seems to me to be a bit of a trend happening right now. I mean, of course, we do have the reconstructed Globe, and I know of another company in America that tries to make authentic productions of Shakespeare. And in New Zealand, my home country, they have this thing called the Pop-Up Globe, which is a replica of the Globe Theatre, but kind of made to be built very quickly. It can be built and dismantled very quickly. It's got a base of scaffolding. It doesn't look exactly like the Globe, but the dimensions are exactly the same. And there's a man there who was basically put in his life savings to create this building, and he's built a company around it. And there's something like 9 professional productions happening in this pop-up Globe over the Southern Hemisphere summer. And most of the productions are going back to a more authentic style. And I've seen bits of that. And I just feel it's something directors and practitioners are coming back to now. So I feel we're part of a trend almost, or a feeling, a movement towards a certain style. And now with the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's death, more people are staging productions like that, I think, because of that. But it's been happening for a while. That's been the trend for a while, and now in a certain part of the industry anyway. So I feel we're connected internationally because of that, with what's happening. We are connected now with that, and it's just a very exciting way to work. It's a different way to work, and the actors have to be very sharp and onto it, because they don't stop. They can't wait backstage for a blackout, collect themselves and come on. They just have to arrive, and basically just arrive on stage and just do it. So the other thing I would say about the way I'm doing it, I'm trying to put an emphasis on action playing. So psychology is important, and motivation, especially for actors, but as much as I can, I'm just saying, well, just go with what's in the scene. What are you doing right now? Why are you doing this thing right now? What do you want? What's your objective, basically? So we're just playing those actions really strongly, and it's I think it's working really well so far, and I'm very excited to see how it will progress and develop, and I can't wait till we open. I've been involved with Seoul Shakespeare Company for about 5 years now, and I think I've done 4 or 5 main stage productions. And it's wonderful because we get to do Shakespeare every year, and then when we're not doing our main stage, we do smaller events, performances, monologue shows, and so forth. And I just love doing Shakespeare, obviously, and I get to do it every year. One huge production every year, and we put our blood and guts into these productions, and we all love it. I mean, that's Shakespeare. It's just, you just love to do Shakespeare wherever you are. But there is something rather interesting about doing it in Seoul. I certainly never thought I would do it in Seoul, but now I am, and you feel a bit like you're on the frontier. It feels like the Old West or something. Because, it can be difficult. It can be difficult with the language barrier to get things like deliveries sorted out and organize rehearsal spaces and so forth. And so I feel you really have to work quite a lot harder to get the product out there. But it's extremely rewarding. And every year, because of the nature of people in Korea, expats tend to be mostly teachers. So they tend to move on. So, maybe we have 1 or 2 people from when we first started. But every year we do carry over a few people from the previous production. So certain skills and ideas stay with the company. And we always get new people. And what's happened this year is that I mean, it's a cliche to say we've got so many great new people this year, but we really have. We've got so many, such a wide variety of people: older, more experienced people, um, younger people who are maybe new to acting, or people who have just finished a theatre degree or are doing a theatre degree. We've got someone who's doing a theatre degree here in Seoul, and I'm finding with this particular group, although I'd probably say it about every group because you got to promote the play. Everyone's just so keen and they want to be there and they really want to do it and they're enthusiastic and they want to do Shakespeare because there's nothing like it. It's such a challenge. I don't think it's a lot different from other acting. I mean, some people get buzzed out by Shakespeare and intimidated. And sure, there are some things that you have to be aware of, some technical things with the verse speaking and so on, but it's the same stuff. You're using the same techniques when you're acting in any other play. You're telling the truth. You're telling a story and you're telling the truth. And as long as people know that, I think they fly with it. And the results so far with this particular group have been astounding. And I just love that everyone loves doing it. And I find that there's nothing like doing a Shakespeare. It feels different from every other kind of play you do. Every other play you do, you can have a great time and you enjoy it. But there's, for me personally, and I'm sure other people agree, when I do a Shakespeare, everything gets engaged. My brain, my thirst for knowledge, my humanity, my need to share my skill or make or to do everything the best I can. It just becomes so much more important doing Shakespeare. And it's a privilege to do Shakespeare. It's just a privilege. And I come from a country where, if you're a professional actor, you may get a chance every 1 or 2 or 3 years to audition for a Shakespeare production because they cost a lot of money, large cast, costumes, things like that. And so you really make the most of it when you get that opportunity. And here we're able to do it every year, and we're thinking about it all the time. Lauren and I are always thinking about what are we doing next? How can we promote the company? What can we do? Oh, it's the 400th anniversary. What can we do now? Things like that. So he keeps you on your toes, and it's just the best thing for theatre people to do.